What if the love of your life came from a world your family would never accept, and your secret could destroy everything? In the heart of Abuja and Accra, a billionaire's daughter hides a secret love that could shame her family. But when the boy she loves dares to defy her father, and a child's life hangs in the balance, will courage, love, and hope be enough to survive the storm of power, wealth, and betrayal? Before you continue, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this powerful story. The night breeze swept through airport residential area in Accra, carrying the scent of rain and quiet wealth. Cars whispered instead of roared. Gates were tall. Silence was expensive. Inside the mansion, 18-year-old Lydia Harris stood by her bedroom window, shaking. Her fingers were pressed over her mouth, as if trying to lock away a truth that wanted to scream. Her father, Mr. Dominic Harris, was one of the richest businessmen in Accra, respected and feared. People talked about his money more than his kindness. Lydia stared at a small white paper in her hand. Her breath kept cutting short. Tears gathered. Positive. The words stabbed deeper each time she blinked. She was pregnant, but that was not the worst part. The child belonged to Michael Turner, son of a poor widow who worked as a cleaner in a private school. Michael lived in a small rented room in Nima, where life tasted like struggle and survival. What started as friendship between them had grown into something neither could control. Lydia's phone buzzed. A message from Michael. "Are you okay? You've been silent since yesterday." She wanted to reply, "I'm pregnant," but fear pressed her throat shut. Downstairs, voices rose from the dining room. Her father's voice, heavy with authority, her mother quiet and composed. They were hosting guests from Abuja for business negotiations. Lydia knew that her father's dream was to expand fully into Nigeria and merge companies with another billionaire, Mr. Philip Carrington, from Abuja. What Lydia didn't know was that part of the discussion involved her. She wiped her tears and stepped out, moving quietly down the stairs. From behind a wall, she listened. "We need this partnership sealed," Mr. Harris said firmly. "Carrington is ready. Once we sign in Abuja next month, everything changes." Her mother asked, "And what about Lydia? Have you told her?" Her father's voice lowered. "Not yet, but she will marry Philip's son. Nothing will stop this." Lydia froze. It felt like the world stabbed her twice in the same breath. A marriage, arranged, for business, with another billionaire's son? It was as if her baby's future collapsed before it even started forming. She ran back to her room and locked the door. Her chest rose and fell like waves fighting a storm. Marry another man? Carry a baby from a poor home? Shame, disgrace, expulsion from family. She imagined her father's reaction. Dominic Harris cared more about reputation than truth. He built his empire on rules and fear. Lydia reached for her phone again. She typed, "Michael, can we meet tomorrow by noon? Same place." She deleted the message twice before finally sending it. Michael's reply came fast. "I'll be there." That night, Lydia barely slept. She kept pressing her hand over her stomach as if protecting something fragile from a world that didn't care. Michael Turner woke early, helping his mother carry water before leaving for his internship at a mechanic shop. His mother, Mrs. Gloria Turner, watched him with quiet pride. He reminded her of his late father, kind, hard-working, and full of dreams bigger than their income. "Don't give up, Michael," she said. "Life may test you, but it won't deny you." He smiled, not knowing how much life was about to test him. At the secret meeting place, a small garden near East Legon, Lydia waited. When Michael arrived, her eyes were swollen from crying. He held her shoulders gently. "What's wrong?" She tried to speak. The words crawled out like wounded birds. "Michael, I'm pregnant." Silence kicked the air. Michael stepped back, stunned, not from shame, but from fear. "Pregnant? Our baby?" he whispered. Lydia nodded. Tears rolled. "My father wants me to marry someone from Abuja, for business. He can't find out about us." Michael's fists clenched, not in anger toward Lydia, but toward a world designed to crush the poor before they even dreamed. "Do you want to keep it?" he asked. She looked away. "It's my baby. I won't destroy it." Her voice held a quiet strength that surprised even herself. Before Michael could respond, a black SUV slowed near the garden, tinted windows watching like suspicion with wheels. Lydia panicked. "That's one of my father's drivers," she whispered. "They're looking for me." Michael moved closer, shielding her, but the SUV sped away as if confirming she was there. That moment carried a silent message. Her secret was no longer completely safe. By evening, Lydia returned home to find her father waiting in the living room. "Where were you?" he asked, calm but sharp. "School assignment." She lied. He stared long enough to know she was hiding something. Dominic Harris didn't need evidence to sense danger. He smelled secrets like blood in water. "You are my only child," he said slowly. "Do not disappoint me." She swallowed hard. Her hand instinctively touched her belly. Later that night, thunder cracked across Accra. Lydia sat by her window again, rain pounding like warning drums. She knew that once the truth surfaced, everything would explode in Accra and Abuja. But she also knew this: secrets don't stay hidden forever. And her secret already had a heartbeat. Morning sun stretched across Accra like a golden blanket, but Lydia felt none of its warmth. She moved through the house quietly, avoiding every pair of eyes. Secrets make footsteps heavier, and hers weighed like stones. Her father had left early for meetings. Her mother, Mrs. Catherine Harris, sat in the living room reading the newspaper, face calm but tired. Catherine noticed Lydia's pale cheeks. "You look weak. Are you eating well?" she asked. Lydia forced a small smile. "Just tired from schoolwork." Catherine nodded, though her eyes carried suspicion. Mothers rarely miss the truth, even when it's hidden under silence. Upstairs, Lydia packed a small bag. She told the driver she was meeting school friends, but she was headed to Nima. She needed to talk to Michael again, this time with harder clarity. In Nima, Michael was repairing a car at the mechanic shop. Sweat rolled down his neck under the hot sun. Life here demanded strength, not comfort. When Lydia arrived, the other apprentices stared. Wealth never enters poor neighborhoods quietly. Michael rushed to meet her behind the workshop. "You shouldn't have come here," he whispered. "I had to." Her voice shook. Michael rested his hands on his knees, preparing for whatever would follow. "You deserve to know everything," she said. "My father arranged a marriage for me, with a billionaire's son from Abuja." Michael swallowed. "So what happens to us? To the baby?" "I don't know," she whispered, "but I want to keep it. I don't care how hard it becomes." Michael looked up. There was fear in his eyes, but also courage. "Then we fight for it." His words were simple, but they felt like a promise carved in stone. Before Lydia could reply, the workshop owner called Michael back. "Stop wasting time, boy. Work doesn't finish itself." Michael ran off. Lydia watched him. heart pulled in two directions, love and reality. Meanwhile, in Abuja, Mr. Philip Carrington received a phone call from Dominic Harris. Their business merger was almost sealed. Carrington's son, Ethan Carrington, had no idea marriage was waiting for him like a locked door. Ethan was in his office, handling charity funds for widows and children. Unlike his father, Ethan preferred compassion over wealth. When Carrington entered the office, Ethan looked up. "Pack your bags," his father announced. "We're traveling to Accra next week. For serious matters." Ethan frowned. "Business again?" "More than business," Philip replied, with a smug grin. Ethan's stomach twisted. He hated sentences that hid secrets. Back in Accra, Lydia returned home just as rain began. A guard rushed to open the gate. As she walked in, her mother appeared behind the staircase, arms folded. "Where did you go?" Lydia hesitated. "School assignment." Catherine's eyes narrowed. "School doesn't smell like engine oil and dust." Lydia froze. She didn't plan for this kind of mother's wisdom. She hurried upstairs, but Catherine followed slowly, thinking. Inside her room, Lydia sat on her bed, holding her stomach again. She imagined a tiny heartbeat fighting for space in a world full of power and prejudice. She whispered, "I'll protect you, I promise." That evening, Dominic returned home with a business glow in his voice. He called for Lydia. He sat in the living room with 2 glasses of juice, something he only did when he wanted control dressed as kindness. "You're almost 19, he began. "It's time to think like someone from this family. Our future is expanding to Abuja. You will play a role in that future." Lydia stared at him, feeling walls closing in. She said nothing. Silence became rebellion. Dominic leaned back. "When the Carringtons arrive next week, show respect. Everything depends on this alliance." He stood and left, satisfied with his speech. Lydia held her breath until he disappeared. Later that night, Catherine entered Lydia's room quietly. She closed the door behind her. "I don't believe your lies," she said softly. "You are hiding something. If you need help, tell me before it becomes too late." Lydia's throat tightened. She wanted to speak, but fear glued her tongue. Catherine touched her cheek gently. "Secrets grow teeth," she murmured. "When they bite, they never bite softly." She left, without pressing further. Somewhere across town, Gloria Turner sat with her Bible open, praying for Michael's future. She prayed for opportunities. She prayed for protection. She prayed without knowing that part of her son's destiny was already stirring inside a billionaire's home. The twist came the next morning. Dominic received a confidential email from one of the drivers. Attached was a blurry photo. Lydia in East Legon with a poor boy from Nima. The driver wrote only one line. "Sir, I believe you should see this." Dominic stared at the picture for a long time. His jaw stiffened. Power hated surprises, especially cheap surprises. On the other side of the town, Lydia didn't know the first crack in her secret had just formed. The morning sun had barely risen when Dominic Harris stepped into his private study. The blurry photo on his laptop screen was still open from the night before. Lydia, standing close to a poor boy in East Legon, a boy who didn't belong anywhere near his family. Dominic wasn't a man who reacted with noise. His anger grew in silence, like fire under metal. He leaned back in his leather chair, eyes sharp, breath controlled. He zoomed into the picture, Lydia's hand near the boy's chest, the boy's protective posture, their closeness, their fear. "This is not friendship," he muttered. "This is trouble." He closed the laptop gently, as if sealing a decision. The first crack in Lydia's world had already entered his mind. Upstairs, Lydia stood at her bathroom sink, staring at her reflection. Her eyes looked older than yesterday. Secrets age people faster. She touched her stomach, whispering, "We will survive this. I don't know how, but we will." She heard footsteps outside. She quickly washed her face and stepped out. Her mother was already waiting in the hallway. "Your father wants to see you," Catherine said. Lydia's heartbeat jumped. In the living room, Dominic stood with his hands behind him, dressed for the day in a sharp navy blue suit. "Sit," he instructed. Lydia obeyed quietly. "I got a message about you yesterday," he began, voice calm but cold. "Someone said you were seen with a boy from Nima." Lydia froze. She kept her eyes down. "Is it true?" Her throat tightened. She couldn't lie. She couldn't tell the full truth either. "Yes, I know him," she whispered. Dominic inhaled slowly. "A boy from the slums? Lydia, do you understand the risk? Do you understand the disgrace? We are about to join families with the Carringtons of Abuja." Her chest tightened. Fear rose like smoke. "He's just a friend," she lied softly, though her voice trembled. Dominic studied her face, searching, calculating. After a long silence, he said, "Stay away from that boy. I won't repeat myself." Lydia nodded, but inside, she felt a storm building. In Nima, Michael was repairing a generator when his mother walked into the workshop. She had packed food for him, wrapped in a small cloth. "You left early," she said. "Are you okay?" He hesitated. "How do you tell your mother you got a billionaire's daughter pregnant? How do you even begin?" "Ma, I need to talk to you later." Gloria smiled. "Talk when you are ready. I'll listen." Her humility broke him inside. Meanwhile, in Abuja, Ethan Carrington packed for the trip to Accra. He stared at his suitcase without enthusiasm. He didn't trust his father's silence. Philip always hid sharp surprises behind friendly smiles. When Philip walked in, Ethan spoke up. "What exactly are we going to Accra for?" Philip smirked. "To finalize our partnership with the Harris family, and to introduce you properly to their daughter." Ethan frowned. "Introduce me? For what?" "You will understand when we get there." Ethan's heart sank. He didn't like that answer. Back in Accra, Lydia escaped the house as soon as her father left for work. She took a taxi to a quiet spot near Nima where she and Michael could talk without watchful eyes. When she reached, Michael was already waiting, pacing nervously. "What happened at home?" he asked. "My father knows I was with you," she said. "Someone took a photo. He didn't see the baby yet, but he warned me." Michael clenched his jaw. "So what do we do?" Lydia swallowed. "I don't know, but we must be smart. We can't let them tear us apart." Michael stepped closer, voice firm. "I won't leave you, or the baby, but we need a plan." Before they could decide anything, a familiar car parked at a distance. Lydia's breath caught. It was her mother's driver. The tinted window rolled down slightly. Catherine Harris stepped out. The world paused. Michael stepped back, heart hammering. Lydia's lips parted, fear rising like heat. Catherine walked toward them, slow, steady, face unreadable. Michael lowered his head respectfully. "Good afternoon, Ma." Catherine didn't answer. She looked at Lydia first, then at Michael, then at Lydia again. Longer, deeper. "Get in the car," she said quietly. Lydia felt her knees weaken, but she obeyed. Catherine looked at Michael once more. "I don't know who you are, but I will know soon." Her voice was calm, but it carried the force of a coming storm. The door closed. The car pulled away. Lydia stared at Michael through the window, eyes filled with fear and apology. Michael stood alone on the quiet street, watching the car disappear. He felt his future being pulled out of his hands. Inside the moving car, Catherine finally spoke. "You're pregnant, aren't you?" Lydia's heart dropped. She didn't answer. Catherine didn't need words. She whispered softly, painfully, "Oh God, Lydia, what have you done?" Lydia broke into tears, covering her face. But the shock wasn't the end. Catherine added, trembling, "If your father finds out, he will destroy that boy." Lydia looked up sharply. "No, he can't. You don't know him as I do," Catherine whispered. "He will protect his name at any cost, even if it means ruining someone else's child." Lydia cried harder. Her secret was no longer between her and the baby. Now her mother knew, and her father was the greatest danger. Catherine Harris didn't speak for the rest of the ride home. Silence sat between her and Lydia like a third person. The driver focused straight ahead, sensing tension he didn't dare disturb. Inside the mansion, Catherine dismissed the driver and locked the front door behind them. She guided Lydia upstairs to her room, closing the door gently, as if hiding a fragile secret from the world. "Tell me everything," she whispered. Lydia wiped her tears with shaking hands. She didn't know where to begin. Secrets never come out in clean lines. They spill, they break, they tremble. "I didn't plan for it," she said. "I didn't even think it could happen. I just love him." Catherine stared at her long and hard. "Love does not erase consequences. Who is the boy? What is his family?" "He's Nigerian-Ghanaian. His name is Michael. He lives in Nima with his mother. She's a widow." Catherine closed her eyes. The difference in social class hit her like a wave. Nima versus airport residential. Widow versus billionaire. Life versus status. It was the kind of imbalance that made society cruel. "How far along are you?" Catherine asked. 2 months. That was enough to collapse the Harris family's future partnerships if revealed. Catherine sat down, holding her forehead. "Did Michael put you in this situation and disappear?" "No," Lydia exclaimed immediately. "He wants to take responsibility. He wants to fight for us." Catherine nodded slowly. Poor boys can love deeply, but love has never protected anyone from power. She stood and walked to the window. Her voice softened. "Your father cannot know yet. Not now. Not with the Carringtons coming." Lydia swallowed. "So what do we do?" Catherine turned. "We wait, we watch, and we pray this secret doesn't break everything." Meanwhile in Nima, Michael returned home with groceries for his mother. Gloria Turner was sweeping their small living room. She smiled when she saw him. "You're buying food now? Business must be good." Michael forced a smile. "Not business, just needed to." Gloria studied him, reading his expression like an open book. Widows learn to read their children without asking questions. "Sit," she said. "Talk to me." Michael took a breath. "Ma, I need to tell you something, but please don't get angry." Gloria leaned on the broom. "If I get angry, I'll repent later. Say it." Michael hesitated. Words were heavier when they held future consequences. "There's a girl. I love her. She's from a rich family." Gloria's eyebrows lifted. "Rich how?" "Billionaire kind of rich." Gloria sat down slowly. "And what does a billionaire want with my son?" Michael laughed nervously. "She's not the billionaire. She's his daughter." Gloria stared hard. "Michael, be serious." "I am serious," he whispered. "And she's pregnant." The broom dropped. The room fell silent. Gloria covered her mouth. Tears didn't come, but shock settled deep. Pregnant? With your child? Michael nodded. Gloria sank into the chair. Lord Jesus. After a long silence, she finally spoke. Does she want the baby? Yes. Does her family know? No. And if they do, they'll take her away. Gloria looked up slowly. Then, we are dealing with lions. In Abuja, Ethan stared out the window of his father's private jet as the aircraft cut through clouds toward Accra. Philip sat across from him, drinking wine like someone celebrating a victory no one else understood. Relax, Philip said. The Harris family is respectable. Their daughter is suitable. Suitable for what? Ethan asked. For marriage, Philip replied bluntly. The world is built through alliances, not emotions. Ethan turned away. Marriage is not business. Philip chuckled. That is exactly where you are wrong. Ethan closed his eyes, wondering what kind of girl he was being handed to. At the Harris mansion, Dominic returned home earlier than expected. Catherine met him in the hallway, blocking his path subtly. You're back early, she said casually. Dominic looked at her suspiciously. Where's Lydia? In her room, studying. Dominic tried to move past her, but Catherine placed a gentle hand on his arm. Let her breathe, she whispered. She's growing. She needs space. Dominic softened slightly. I only asked her to stay away from that boy. That's all. Catherine nodded. And she will. He stared at her eyes, searching for defiance. Catherine's gift was hiding storms behind calm lakes. After he entered his study, Catherine exhaled deeply. She wasn't afraid of her husband. She was afraid of what his power could do. That night, Lydia sneaked out to the balcony. She dialed Michael. Her voice was soft. My mother knows. Michael froze. What did she say? She won't tell my father. Not now. But she's scared. And I'm scared too. Michael swallowed. I'll come to the mansion. I'll talk to her. I'll talk to both of them, if I must. No, Lydia whispered urgently. That will destroy everything. Michael clenched his fists. So what do we do? Wait for the world to eat us? Lydia wiped tears. For now, yes. Before she hung up, she added, They're coming from Abuja soon. The Carringtons. Michael didn't speak. He didn't need to. The silence said enough. The battle had officially begun. But the most dangerous part wasn't the billionaire father or Nigerian alliance. It was the truth itself. Truth never stays quiet, forever. Wesley returned to Abuja weeks later, this time not for business, not for luxury, but for family. His widowed mother, Martha, had fallen ill after overworking herself at a community clinic. Royal fathers could afford silence. Poor mothers paid with their bodies. Daphne spent those weeks restless in Accra, sick in the mornings, scared at night. The doctor had already confirmed what she feared, a heartbeat inside her, small and quiet, but undeniable. She hid the test in a book on her shelf, as if stories could protect her reality. When Wesley resurfaced in Abuja, he was caught between guilt and dignity. His mother's room smelled of disinfectant and boiled leaves. She refused to show weakness even on a hospital bed. My son, she said softly, you must become bigger than your circumstances. Poverty is a shadow. Do not marry it into your soul. Wesley smiled sadly. I have tried, Mama, but life has its own plans. Back in Accra, Daphne stopped eating properly. Every time her phone vibrated, her heart raced with dread. Would it be Wesley? Would it be her father? Or would it be nothing at all? Finally, she called Wesley. The line crackled. The distance between Ghana and Nigeria suddenly feeling like a wall. "Wesley, I need to see you. It's important." Wesley's voice dropped. "How important?" She hesitated. "Life-changing." Wesley wanted to fly the next day, but he couldn't abandon his mother while she fought for strength. So Daphne boarded a plane to Abuja alone, head heavy with secrets. When she arrived, Wesley was waiting by the terminal, his clothes simple, his eyes tired. Poverty did not dim his beauty, it sharpened it. They embraced quietly. Daphne cried without words. Wesley knew. Love sometimes speaks before truth is confessed. They drove to the clinic where Martha lay. Daphne's perfume filled the car, clashing with Wesley's scent of sweat and hardship. When they stepped into the room, Martha studied Daphne's soft hands, polished nails, and foreign confidence. She recognized wealth immediately. Wealth had a smell, a posture, a way of occupying space without apology. "Good afternoon, Ma," Daphne greeted. Martha nodded, expression unreadable. Wesley made the introduction. "Mama, this is Daphne. She came from Ghana." Martha's eyes narrowed. "A visitor from money?" Daphne swallowed. Wealth always felt insulting in places where pain lived. They talked briefly, gently. When Martha slept, Daphne pulled Wesley aside and finally said it. "I'm pregnant." His breath caught. Fear and joy collided inside him. "Are you sure?" "Yes." "Does your father know?" "No, and he must not." "Not yet." Silence thickened. Then Wesley held her hands. "If the world tries to shame us, we must shame it back with the truth. I want the child. I want you." Daphne broke entirely. No man had ever wanted her beyond her bloodline and surname. They walked outside, just as evening settled over Abuja. But storms traveled faster than night, and fate did not like secrets. The moment Daphne and Wesley stepped out of the clinic, they saw a black SUV parked across the road. Inside sat Mr. Bruce, her father, staring at them like a judge inside a courtroom built from pride. He had followed her, and he had seen enough to fear the rest. The black SUV sat silently across the road, its tinted windows reflecting the dimming Abuja sky. Daphne felt the color drain from her face. Wesley instinctively moved closer, shielding her with his body, even though the world outside the clinic was empty. "Your father," Wesley whispered. "He's here." Daphne nodded, trembling. She had known this day would come. No secret survives when power smells fear. Inside the SUV, Dominic Harris's eyes burned. He had followed her personally after a private tip. Nothing escaped him. Not a phone call, not a flight ticket, not a heartbeat of betrayal in his daughter's life. The boy she held hands with? That boy would learn fear today. He stepped out slowly, every movement precise, like a predator calculating distance. Wealth had taught him patience. Power had taught him cruelty. He walked toward them across the asphalt, polished shoes glinting under the streetlights. Daphne wanted to run, but her legs refused. Wesley's hand tightened around hers. "Daphne, stay calm," he whispered. Dominic stopped 2 steps from them. He looked at Wesley. His gaze was enough to strip a man bare, facing judgment without a word. "You," Dominic said, his voice cold, clipped but carrying the weight of empires. "Do you know who I am?" "Yes, sir," Wesley said, respectfully, though his heart raced. "You know why you should fear me?" "Yes, sir." Dominic smiled, though no warmth existed in it. "Good. Fear keeps people alive. Sometimes." He turned to Daphne. "And you, my only daughter, why must you disgrace everything I have built?" Daphne swallowed hard, tears threatening. She felt the weight of every luxurious chair, every expensive wall, every golden ornament in the mansion at home pressing on her small chest. "Father, you," Dominic snapped, stepping closer, making Daphne shrink instinctively. "This boy, this child, do you understand what this means? The family alliances, the Carringtons, the reputation." Wesley opened his mouth, but Dominic silenced him with a single glance. Power didn't need words. It demanded obedience. "You will leave here," Dominic continued, voice low but lethal. "Immediately, no explanations, no excuses, and this boy," he turned fully toward Wesley, "you will leave our lives forever, or you will pay." Wesley's chest tightened. "Sir, I—" "Leave," Dominic interrupted. He took out his phone, pressing a single button. Instantly, 2 black SUVs rolled up from the shadows, blocking the street from either side. Escape routes vanished. Daphne stepped in front of Wesley instinctively. "Father, please," she begged. He is not a threat. He is honest. He loves me." Dominic's eyes softened. For a brief, almost imperceptible second, just long enough for Daphne to hope. But then they hardened again. "Love," he said slowly, almost tasting the word, "cannot erase consequences." Wesley glanced at Daphne. His mind raced. Poverty had taught him courage, but not strategy against a man like Dominic Harris. Dominic continued, pacing slightly, "I will allow you to leave today, boy, because I am generous. But if you touch my daughter again, you will vanish from your world. Understand?" "Yes, sir," Wesley said, voice steady despite fear. Dominic looked at Daphne one last time. "You will return with me. Tonight. Pack your belongings. Do not speak to anyone about this. And do not think of escaping to Abuja or Ghana. Your life, as you know it, has changed." The words were sharp, slicing through her like wind through dry leaves. Daphne's tears fell freely. "Father, please, for the baby." "The baby," Dominic repeated, as if tasting something bitter. "Do you expect mercy for something you hid from me? The child is mine as much as it is yours, and I will decide its future." Wesley clenched his fists. "Sir, I swear I will take responsibility." Dominic snapped his fingers. One of the SUV's doors opened. 2 men stepped forward, grabbing Wesley firmly by the arms. He didn't resist. He knew resistance now meant nothing. Daphne tried to reach for him, but Dominic pulled her closer. "Your protection is my responsibility now. And that begins with obedience." Tears ran down Daphne's cheeks. She had never felt so trapped. Her love, her child, her choices, all consumed by the shadow of her father's empire. That night, in the Harris mansion, Daphne was confined to her room, her belongings packed, her phone confiscated, and a guard stationed outside. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the ceiling. Somewhere in Nima, Wesley stared at an empty street under the moonlight, his heart pounding with helplessness. The boy from a poor neighborhood, fighting a world of billionaires, realized something terrifying. Love alone may not survive against power. Yet even as the darkness settled, a small voice inside Daphne whispered, "The child will live, and one day, so will I." Outside, the city of Abuja continued, indifferent to the private wars of love and power happening in a single mansion on a quiet street. But fate, as always, had a plan, and tomorrow, everything would change. The Harris mansion was quiet, too quiet. Wealth could make silence feel like chains, and tonight, Daphne felt every link pressing into her chest. Her room was lavish, marble floors, high ceilings, golden accents, but she felt trapped in luxury. Guards patrolled the hallways, shadows moving like invisible walls. She clutched the small notebook where she had written her thoughts. Every word was a whisper of rebellion. Her phone had been confiscated. No messages from Wesley. No call to hear the boy's voice. Nothing but the constant hum of air conditioners and distant city traffic. Dominic Harris entered quietly, his presence heavy like a storm in a room. "Sit," he commanded softly, his tone carrying authority that made even the guards pause. Daphne obeyed. She had learned long ago that obedience could sometimes buy a few seconds of life. "You know why you are here," he said, pacing slowly. "You hid a secret from me, a child. Do you understand the gravity?" I was afraid," Daphne whispered, eyes downcast. "I didn't want to disappoint you." Dominic stopped and looked at her. His eyes were sharp, searching, as if he could see inside her very soul. "Fear is useless. Only obedience keeps people alive in this world," he said. "The Carringtons will arrive in 3 days. I cannot have any scandal. Not now. Not ever." Daphne's stomach tightened. She wanted to speak, to explain that the child was innocent, that Wesley meant no harm, but the words stuck in her throat. She could not argue with a storm. Dominic continued, softer now, almost reflective. "I will allow the child to live. But under my rules, you will stay here. No trips to Abuja, no secret meetings, and you will not see that boy again." Daphne's heart clenched. "But father, he is irrelevant," Dominic interrupted coldly. "For now, the only thing that matters is survival, yours and the child's." The room felt smaller. Every piece of furniture, every golden ornament, reminded her that she was trapped inside her father's empire. After Dominic left, Daphne slumped on the bed, tears streaming freely. She pressed her hand to her stomach, feeling the small life inside her. "I will survive. I will protect you," she whispered. Meanwhile, across the city, Wesley could not sleep. The empty streets of Nima mocked him. He had thought love could overcome anything. But this world was larger, crueler, and filled with men who measured life in power. He stood by the rooftop of their small home, watching the distant lights of Abuja. His mother, Gloria Turner, had scolded him gently for worrying too much. "You cannot fight a lion with bare hands," she said. "But you can outthink it." Her words had stayed with him. The lion was Dominic Harris. The bare hands were Wesley's youth and poverty. He clenched his fists. "I will not let them destroy her or the baby," he whispered. Back in the Harris mansion, the tension was rising. Daphne's mother, Catherine, had been subtle but vigilant. She watched her husband's moods carefully, always ready to intercede but never overtly defy him. Later that evening, she entered Daphne's room quietly. "You are frightened," she said softly. Daphne nodded, burying her face in her hands. "Listen to me," Catherine whispered. "I know you love him. I know the child is innocent. But in this house, obedience is survival. You must hide your heart for now. Protect yourself and the baby. That is the only choice we have." Daphne lifted her tear-streaked face. "How long, Mother? How long must I hide?" "Until the storm passes," Catherine replied, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's face. "And we will find a way." The next day, the mansion was alive with preparations. The Carringtons were arriving. Luxurious cars gleamed in the driveway. Servants polished silverware. Security tightened its perimeter. Every detail mattered. Daphne moved silently through the corridors, observing, learning. She knew her father's pride would be on display. His power would be amplified in front of the Carringtons. And somewhere, deep inside, She knew he would attempt to control the narrative of her life, of her choices, and of her unborn child. Wesley in Abuja was already planning. He had contacted a friend in the capital who owed him loyalty. Small networks, small connections, but every thread mattered. He could not storm the mansion. He had to be smart. If I make one mistake, he thought, she and the baby are gone forever. That evening, Daphne sat by her balcony, watching the sunset over Abuja's skyline, feeling the mansion's walls pressing in on her. She whispered softly to the baby inside her, I promise, little one, I will fight for you. No matter what happens, we will survive. Below, the black SUVs of the Harris family security roared softly along the street. Silent hunters. The Carringtons were on their way, bringing promises of alliances, but also threats. Somewhere in the distance, a plan was forming. Wesley's plan. And a storm was coming. Daphne didn't know it yet, but soon, the battle for love, power, and the child would erupt, and nothing inside the Harris mansion would ever be the same. The morning sun over Abuja was bright, almost too bright, as if the city itself knew a storm was coming. At the Harris mansion, every corner gleamed with perfection. Marble floors, sparkling chandeliers, gold accents. But Daphne felt none of it. Luxury could be a cage, and today the cage had visitors. The Carrington convoy arrived just after 10 a.m. Black luxury cars moving smoothly along the driveway. Philip Carrington, the patriarch, stepped out first, a tall, imposing man whose smile did not reach his eyes. Behind him, Ethan Carrington followed, eyes flicking over every detail, from guards to walls to the waiting daughter of a billionaire. Dominic Harris met them at the entrance, extending a hand with a practiced smile. "Welcome, Carrington family," he said, voice smooth but cold. "We are honored by your visit." Ethan's eyes shifted to Daphne, standing slightly behind her father, hands folded politely. She felt their gaze like fire. She could not look away, though every instinct screamed to hide. Philip studied her carefully. "So this is the famous Daphne Harris." "Ah," he said. His tone was polite, but there was curiosity mixed with subtle judgment. "Your reputation precedes you." Daphne nodded, a faint smile on her lips. "It's a pleasure to meet you, sir." Philip's eyes lingered. He could see the careful posture, the quiet tension. Something was off, but he didn't know what. Dominic clapped his hands once. "Shall we have tea in the study?" The group moved inside. The mansion was alive now with conversation, but Daphne could hear the pounding of her own heart. Every glance from her father, every nod from the Carringtons, reminded her that the world outside her room was dangerous. During tea, Philip spoke with diplomacy, carefully testing Dominic, probing for weaknesses, gauging the mood. Ethan, however, could not hide his curiosity. He leaned toward Daphne at one point. "You're quite young for such responsibilities," he whispered, his eyes flicking to the chandelier above. "Your father must trust you deeply." Daphne forced a smile, trying to mask the fear simmering inside her. "I only try to do what I can," she whispered back. Meanwhile, in a shadowed corner, Dominic's gaze never left the table. His smile was polite, but his mind was calculating. He knew something his guests did not. The secret that could unravel everything in a single day. 2 months, he thought. 2 months and counting. A child no one knows about. He sipped his tea carefully, as if savoring the power he held. After tea, Ethan excused himself, wandering into the garden. Daphne followed cautiously, unsure if it was safe to be alone with him. You're hiding something, Ethan said suddenly, stopping near the fountain. His gaze was sharp. I can feel it. Daphne froze. Every instinct screamed that she could not reveal the truth. I I don't know what you mean, she said, voice soft. Ethan smiled faintly. It's okay. Secrets have a way of revealing themselves, but you seem worried. Daphne forced a laugh. It's nothing, just the pressure of hosting such esteemed guests. Ethan tilted his head, studying her expression. There was something more, something fragile, something defiant. He didn't know it yet, but the weight of a hidden truth hung over her like a cloud ready to burst. Back inside, Dominic watched the interaction from the window. A single thought ran through his mind. No one touches my daughter. No one. As the Carringtons prepared to leave for lunch, an unexpected sound shattered the calm. The security guard, stationed near the driveway, called urgently. Sir? A man. He says he's here to see Miss Daphne. Dominic's eyes narrowed. Daphne's heart jumped. She turned, expecting a familiar face, hoping it wasn't Wesley. But it was. Wesley stood at the gates, simple clothes, eyes burning with determination. He had found a way past the mansion's security, past the SUVs, past the guards who had been instructed not to let anyone through. Dominic's face went pale. Fury and disbelief collided in one moment. You, he shouted, storming toward the gate. How did you get in here? Guards! The Carringtons froze, watching a scene they had not expected. A poor boy from Nima, standing at the gates of a billionaire's mansion, confronting one of the richest men in Nigeria. Wesley didn't flinch. I'm here for Daphne and the child. The words hung in the air like a storm cloud. Silence, fear, shock. Daphne ran toward him, but Dominic intercepted her, placing a firm hand on her shoulder. Stay where you are. Wesley took a step forward. Father, you can't control this. She is not just your daughter anymore. And this child, it has a... Wesley took a step forward. Father, you can't control this. She is not just your daughter anymore. And this child, it has a right to life. Dominic's face twisted with rage. You insolent boy, you dare speak to me like that? Philip and Ethan exchanged glances, realizing that the secret they had not known was about to erupt. Power, money, class, love, all crashing in one moment in the driveway of a mansion that had never seen such chaos. Daphne stood frozen between them, her hands trembling. She wanted to scream, to shout, to tell them everything, but she knew the risk. One wrong word, and Dominic's wrath could destroy everything. Wesley's voice was steady now. I love her. I will protect the child. Nothing else matters. The Carringtons were silent, observing. The mansion, usually a symbol of control and order, was now the epicenter of fear, power struggles, and impossible choices. Dominic clenched his fists. This that changes everything. And indeed it did, because some battles could not be avoided, some truths could not be hidden, and some storms had already begun. The sun had begun to set over Abuja, painting the mansion in fiery gold. But inside, there was no warmth. The Harris mansion was a battlefield, where power, love, and secrets collided. Wesley stood at the gates, defiance in his eyes. Guards flanked him, but their presence only made him bolder. He had nothing to lose except fear. Everything else, his love for Daphne, the life of their child, was worth the risk. Dominic Harris advanced, every step deliberate, a man who had never been challenged. His fists were clenched, but his eyes revealed more than anger. They revealed disbelief. How had this boy, from Nima, penetrated his empire? Do you think you can just walk into my house? Dominic's voice was cold, echoing against the driveway. I don't think, Wesley said firmly. I know I will not leave her, and I will protect my child. Daphne stepped forward, her hands raised. Father, please, don't make this harder than it already is. Dominic's eyes snapped to her. You have no idea what you've done. The Carringtons stood silently, observing. Philip's eyes narrowed as he assessed the situation. This was no ordinary conflict. Something deeper, more dangerous, was unfolding. Ethan's gaze softened slightly as he looked at Daphne. Your father's fury is overwhelming, he whispered. Daphne's chest tightened. She had felt the weight of her father's expectations, his power, and now it was crushing her and the child she carried. Wesley's voice broke the tense silence. Father, listen to me. I love her. The child is innocent. We are not enemies. Dominic laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. Innocent? Innocent doesn't matter when you disgrace a family. You will leave, now. Wesley shook his head. No, I cannot. I will not. Dominic's hand lifted slightly, signaling the guards. They stepped closer, tension thick as steel. Daphne screamed, Stop! Don't touch him! For a moment, time froze. The wind swept through the driveway, ruffling Daphne's hair. The Carringtons exchanged glances, sensing the battle was about to explode. Suddenly, Wesley pulled a small, worn letter from his pocket. Read this, he said, voice shaking but strong. It proves everything. My mother, my family, we are not just poor. We are honest. We are responsible. I will fight for her. Dominic took the letter reluctantly. He unfolded it carefully. His eyes scanned quickly, then narrowed. You dare bring proof to me? Yes, Wesley said, because proof, honesty, and love are stronger than fear. Daphne's heart pounded. This was the first time she saw Wesley truly stand as her equal. He was not just a boy from Nima anymore. He was a man willing to challenge a billionaire for love and life. Philip Carrington spoke for the first time. Mr. Harris, perhaps a moment to consider. There is more at stake here than pride. Think of alliances, think of consequences if this escalates further. Dominic's jaw tightened. He looked at Daphne, then at Wesley. Rage and doubt collided. Could he allow love and honesty to win? Could he bend his empire for the sake of a child? The evening air thickened with suspense. Daphne stepped closer to Wesley. Father, the child deserves a chance. I deserve a chance. Please. Dominic's eyes softened briefly. It was almost imperceptible, but enough for Daphne to notice. The father she feared, the man who ruled with iron, hesitated. Wesley seized the moment. Sir, I will do anything. Anything to prove that I can provide for her and the baby. Please, allow me this one chance. A long silence fell. Even the guards seemed to hold their breath. Dominic's fists unclenched slowly. He looked at his daughter, then at the boy. Then finally he spoke. Tomorrow, he said, voice low and deliberate, you will meet me in my study, and we will discuss the future of this child. And you, boy. Wesley nodded, relief and tension colliding. Thank you, sir. Daphne's tears flowed freely. She ran to Wesley and hugged him tightly. For a brief moment, the world outside disappeared. There was only them, and the tiny heartbeat inside her. But Dominic Harris was not done. He turned to the Carringtons. This changes everything, he said. a warning hidden in his words. And you will witness it all. Philip and Ethan exchanged knowing glances. They understood now that the child, the love, and the clash between wealth and honesty were about to shape the future in ways no one could predict. That night, the mansion was quiet again, but the air was different, heavy, dangerous, full of secrets, anger, hope, and the promise of battles to come. Daphne sat by her window, holding her stomach. Wesley was downstairs, pacing, thinking, planning. Dominic retreated to his study, plotting, furious yet intrigued. And somewhere, the child inside her moved for the first time, a tiny, quiet spark of life in the middle of chaos. Daphne whispered softly, "We will survive. We must." Outside, the city of Abuja shimmered with lights, unaware that a war of love, power, and family had already begun, and no one inside the mansion would emerge unchanged. The Harris mansion felt unusually silent that morning. Even the guards seemed tense, knowing that today would change everything. Daphne sat by the window, fingers brushing her stomach, the small life within her moving gently. She whispered softly, "Soon, little one, soon." Wesley arrived early, pacing the driveway before entering the mansion. Today, he was no longer just the boy from Nima. He was a man ready to fight for love, honor, and family. Every step toward the mansion felt heavier, yet lighter, the weight of fear matched by the strength of hope. Inside the study, Dominic sat behind his polished desk, staring at the skyline through the tall glass window. Philip and Ethan Carrington waited patiently, expressions polite but watchful. The air was thick with tension. Silence pressed down like a physical weight. Dominic finally broke the quiet. "This meeting is about the child," he said slowly, "and the boy." Wesley stepped forward. "Yes, sir. I will take responsibility for the child. I love Daphne. I want to protect both of them." Daphne entered quietly behind him, her chin lifted despite the fear in her heart. She had made her choice. The child, her love, her future, none of it would be hidden or silenced any longer. Dominic's gaze flicked to her, sharp, analyzing, searching. "Do you understand the consequences of your actions?" "Yes, Father," Daphne said firmly. "But I also know that love cannot be controlled by fear. The child is innocent. The child deserves life, and we will fight for it." Philip Carrington, the patriarch, cleared his throat. "Dominic, perhaps it is time to consider the human side of this matter. Wealth, power, and pride are nothing if they destroy the ones you love." Ethan nodded. "The truth is always stronger than secrets. You cannot hide what must be revealed. It is only delaying the inevitable." Dominic's eyes narrowed. His fists pressed on the desk. His empire, his pride, his control, they all demanded obedience. Yet staring at Daphne and Wesley, he saw something he had never accounted for: courage and love. He sighed, the first crack in his armor. "Very well," he said finally, voice low but deliberate. "The child will live, but under my conditions. I will oversee every decision. You, boy, must prove your worth, your honesty, and your courage. Do you understand?" Wesley nodded. "I understand, and I accept. I will do whatever it takes." Daphne's tears flowed freely. Relief and gratitude mingled with fear. She stepped forward, holding Wesley's hand. "Thank you, Father," she said softly. Dominic's eyes softened slightly, though his pride remained intact. "You must understand," he said to Daphne, "I only act to protect, but you have grown into your own strength. I see that now." Philip and Ethan exchanged approving glances. They understood that the battle of wealth and power had met something stronger: family, love, and moral courage. Later that day, the mansion seemed different. Not freer, but honest. Daphne and Wesley walked together through the grand halls, their steps lighter. Dominic remained in his study, watching, still calculating, but with a new respect for the boy he had once dismissed. Catherine, Daphne's mother, finally embraced her daughter, whispering, "You were brave, my child, and the child you carry, it will grow strong because of you." Daphne smiled through tears. "We will survive, we will thrive, and the baby will know love, no matter what." In Nima, Wesley's mother, Martha, received the news by phone, her eyes filled with tears of joy and pride. "You did it, my son. You fought for love and honor. You have given life hope." That evening, the Harris mansion was quiet again, but it was a new kind of silence. Not oppression, not fear, but resolution. Secrets had been revealed. Power had been challenged. Love had triumphed, careful, delicate, but absolute. Daphne stood on the balcony looking over Abuja, the city lights sparkling like a promise. Wesley joined her. He took her hand. "We will face the future together," he said, voice steady. "Yes," Daphne replied, resting her hand on her stomach. "Our child, our love, nothing can take that away." Dominic, in his study, watched them from afar. For the first time, he felt pride in his daughter's courage. His empire, his control, they were still his. But he understood that sometimes strength came not from power alone, but from love, morality, and the bravery to fight for what is right. The Carringtons left that night quietly, understanding that alliances could be redefined not just by wealth, but by respect, honor, and integrity. And in the heart of Abuja, two young lovers held on to each other, knowing that the future was uncertain, but certain only in one truth: that life, love, and family, no matter the class or wealth, were stronger than fear. The city continued below them, indifferent yet alive, as if acknowledging that a small victory of humanity had been won within the grand walls of power. Daphne whispered softly to her unborn child, "We are safe, and we will always fight for what is right." Wesley kissed her forehead gently. Together, and for the first time in months, the mansion felt warm. The storm had passed, and the light of hope, courage, and love had broken through. Dear viewers, what lesson did you take away from this dramatic tale? We'd love to hear from your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates. Thanks for watching and stay blessed.